Okay, welcome back to the next episode of Bluepty. We've installed standalone as we showed you last week. We've done tuning on it and drove it a bunch and kind of done some shakedown things, which we'll do some more videos and show you some tuning things. But this week we talked about doing head studs, which we actually did do, but it was boring. It was really kind of boring. If you're going to do it, you can do it head on the car. Just do bolt by bolt by bolt. So you're going to pull in order. Pull old bolt out, clean it, put a stud in, torque it all the way down, and then do the next one in order. Don't pull them all out at once because your head will fall off. So you're going to do one at a time. So this car now has head studs. We do have it on 42-pound injectors because we found out driving around with the stock injectors, we hit duty cycle cut at about 5,500 RPM. So the stock injectors for an M20, too small to make the power that a standalone wants to make. We didn't show you really any pulls last time or show you much actual usage of the standalone. So today what we're going to do is do a couple pulls. This is stock ignition. So it has the stock distributor and a single coil. We'll do a couple pulls showing you how the tables and stuff kind of smooth out. And then we are going to show you how to install the wasted spark setup. We're going to do just the Spicy Brown LS coil setup because it's really the same thing for both, just a little bit different packaging and the way wires plug in. But the way it hooks up to the car, for your knowledge, is exactly the same both ways. And we'll be running the Spicy Brown with the turbo kit, so we'll be ahead of the game. So these will be third gear pulls all the way up to red line, bouncing off that limiter. Here we go. We're going to do another pull. What we're going to do is we're going to actually turn off closed loop on the firmware or in the software, just so you can show this is just straight tune where it's not actually adjusting any fueling. Okay, start again. I'm going to put headphones on. It's kind of loud. Third gear pull. Here we go. We're going to install the Spicy Brown wasted spark setup. So our coils, we already pre-put them onto the bracket. There's 6 nuts on top and bottom. For the sake of what we're doing, we only have the top nuts on. Put them all on. And then on your car, you will pull nuts off of a handful of spots from the valve cover. Here, 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 here. If you have the yellow mustard pack, you'll have just this one, this one, this one, and then this one back in here, okay? The yellow mustard is going to work the same way, except it's just a single coil pack and instead of all 6 like so, okay? So then our wiring, again, depending on what setup you have, your wiring harness will look a little bit different. This is the Spicy Brown setup. This connection that goes back to the ECU is exactly the same on both of them. It's a 6-pin, 3-wired connector, and it's going to plug into the spot on the ECU that says ignition. There is one jumper that needs to change in the ECU. If you bought the setup with just the standard ignition and you need to change that, look at the documentation that came with your Spicy Brown or your yellow mustard, and it'll show you, you'll pull off the 4 screws, and there's one jumper that has to move. If you bought this as a package, everything together, it's going to be set up for you already, ready to go, okay? So this one we'll end up plugging into the ECU, which is in the glove box, okay? Your stock coil will get disconnected on either setup. There are two wires. There's going to be one that uses an 8mm, and then the back side is the one that uses a 10mm. Okay. Those will come off. The 8mm you're no longer ever going to use, so I'd cut that, tape it back, however you want. Make sure it's terminated and not touching anything. Okay. The other side, this is going to be this is a switched power, so this will end up getting connected to your harness from us. If you have the spicy brown, there will be a relay. It might look a little bit different than this one because this is the kind of a prototyping one. That will connect to the single wire. This has a ring terminal for the sake of what we're doing, because we're still kind of swapping back and forth and testing. This will be on here for mine. On yours, excuse me, you would have a crimped terminal on this. So that white wire will end up connecting on to the larger one that went to your coil. The large red wire will connect to your battery here. We're going to pull off this 10mm right here and put it there. And then the black wire, this guy, will connect to your ground, which will be right here. The rest of them will plug into coils. Okay. One other thing that is important that you know, on an M20, it doesn't have, this is how the plug will look on an M20. The plug wire snaps on with just a threaded bit. Normally when you buy a plug, it's going to have this cap on there. That cap just unscrews like that, okay, if you have an M20 plug. Now, the LS or either of our Spark options, you need to have this cap, needs to be on the plug. Otherwise, the plug wire won't snap on all the way securely with the wires that you have in the kit, okay? So we will replace our plugs either with new plugs, or you just need to make sure you swap these guys over. All right, so onward. So we'll pop all these off. Zoop. And pop it off our coil. These then can get disconnected fully, pulled out of the car, because you don't need them. And then we'll take our coil pack and we're going to plug our wires in, our harness in, because it's slightly easier. These are labeled 1 through 6. But they also just work out to be the right length. That. Yeah, flip all the way. I think that one might be a little bit lazy. I think this one I think we've had on and off a handful of times. So the connector is just a little bit loose. Okay, coil pack is going to snake right up on top of all those supports like we said. So there's 1, 2, 3 on the bottom, 2 on the top. Those run an Allen bolt like so. And we're not going to put every single one on right now just because we're trying to show you how this works. So one here, and we will put one back here for the sake of speed. It is a 4mm Allen. This one isn't in. Like that. So again, you would have 3 on the bottom, 2 on the top. If you have the yellow mustard, you'll have 4 total, 2 on the bottom, 2 on top. So that's all we need on that 4mm. Now our wiring, you can kind of clean this up so it's pretty. This wire, that single one like we talked about, that will go into the car, into the cabin, if you will. So we'll snake that through like so. Through that same spot where your vacuum line was run. Ta-da! And we'll just kind of clean that up a little bit for now. Okay. And now this end, as we talked about, this power wire is going to go to here, your battery. The ground wire. Now, if you have every car should have a ground here, but if for some reason it doesn't, the black wire will go to ground. The red goes to battery, and then the white, or that might be possibly a different color, which will be labeled in your kit, goes over to our coil. So we're going to pull these two off. 10 millimeter on the big one, and then we're going to do an 8 millimeter on the small one. And this coil can be removed completely, because if you're not going to ever go back to that. We were going to leave, in this case, I'll leave it on this car because we might still be doing some testing. This wire here, the smaller one, again, highly suggest this gets taped back if you have heat shrink, which would be the best method. But again, this car we're still testing, so we might be swapping back on. Cut that off, heat shrink it, tape it, make sure that it's not going to touch anything. Okay. Tape. Now this wire here, I would then cut this off and crimp this to the relay trigger. Again, because this car is a test car, I'll say it 400 times, we're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is this method. We're going to have a bolt and a nut, and then we're going to tape it all. So what this wire here is for is to trigger the relay on. The relay then feeds power to the coils. I need that 4 millimeter again. Guess I lied. And a 10. Look at that extension. Tighten those up, and I'm going to tape this too. If you have the yellow mustard, your kit will not have this relay because it will feed just directly off this wire. So there'll be 1 or 2 less wires. Just this wire here will be not connected because the yellow mustard doesn't pull as much power. So in this case, we wanted to give these LS coils all the power that they wanted. Okay. And then highly suggest disconnecting your battery here. I'm going to do that now. Disconnect. Huh?
Negative post is tight in an E30. Are you really a BMW?
I think that's right, yeah. If you own 10 cars and you only have 3 batteries, are you even an enthusiast? So we unhooked the battery so that we don't have power here, but you're gonna have the red wire coming off that relay will connect to this. I would connect to this spot on your battery post. If your car is a convertible or a touring, you won't have this battery post. You're going to connect this right to the battery itself. I would also suggest not using a deep well socket. Make it a little bit easier. All right. So there we have that. We have everything is hooked up there. Okay. And then, as I mentioned, you need to swap those little thingamajubers off of your plug wires. So this is when you would do that now. This here will then go on to the plugs that are in the car, or pull your plugs out and swap those over. A little pair of needle nose like this, or pull the whole plug out and just replace the plugs with new ones. That'd probably be even a better idea. But these can start on. If the car isn't warm, this is slightly easier, lots easier. Okay, so you've swapped your little toppers on the top of each plug, or you've put new plugs in. Standard LS plug wire. you should hear it click on both ends. Click, and then onto the plug. There she is. For a little click. Six is a little tricky to get to, so I would say put 6 in before 5, just because you got a little room, rather than working around number 5 plug wire. We're gonna check number 1 again, or was it number 2? That felt weird. We've had these plug wires on and off a couple times, so sometimes they can slide down just a little bit. That sounds better. All right, all 6. We have our harnesses all hooked up. That hooked up. If you unhooked your battery, which you should have, you need to hook that back up. Again, this can come off. We're going to start it and then we'll pull it off. So we're going to hook the battery back up. Your vacuum line hooks up like it did before. That ignition one is going to plug in here. ECU hooks up like so. We're going to hook a USB cable up. So we're going to go into ignition settings and just to make sure that we have it set up as a wasted spark mode from wasted spark. So if you have single coil, it'd be single coil. Wasted spark is what we're having. Everything else will be set up in the tune already for you from us. And then if we did everything right, it'll just start. Now we have no distributor. That's all running off coils. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple polls for you showing how the wasted spark setup works. Now, there probably won't be really many gains because we've tuned this a whole bunch with the stock ignition. Where the gains come in handy is when you have boost and the cylinder pressures are higher, so you have better spark control, hotter spark, and it just looks nicer as well. Less moving parts, everything's a little bit more direct, and you have more control. But we'll see. We're going to change nothing to the tune. We're going to do 2 polls like we just did, one with fuel control on, one with fuel control off, exactly what we just did, and see what it does. Picks up nothing. We've upgraded some other things that are old, and it's going to help in the long run. All right, let's do that. So as I mentioned, we're going to do 2 polls, one with fuel correction on. This is the exact same tune that we just ran just a few moments ago. So this will be fuel correction on, and then we'll turn fuel correction off, just like we did before, just for science, to show you what's going on, okay? Let's do it. Again, these will be 3rd gear pulls, all the way up to the red line. So we did pick up a little bit of power, 144, 147, 4 horsepower, probably a little cleaner spark. Again, stock tune, we didn't change it. It's not stock tune. Same tune. We haven't changed anything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn fuel correction off, and we will do another pull. So we have fuel correction on that last pull. And this one we will have fuel correction off. So it's running just straight off the file. There we go. So there you have it. 2 pulls back to back. Really, they're just about the same across the board. This is an NA car. There's no turbo on it yet. So the real gains with a spark setup like this is going to be if you're boosted. It's also going to be if you have old plug wires, if you have old ignition setup. This car has been gone all through. So things are really exactly as they should. So whatever setup you're running, whether it be the stock ignition with a wasted spark with a yellow or spicy, you're going to make, right in that 144, 147 horsepower on a standalone. That is going to be with some upgraded injectors too, because you are running out of fuel probably more than likely with the stock injectors with the duty cycle cut. So a little bit of information. I hope you enjoyed the little follow along there and got some info under your belt. We did post another video today where we did some live streaming showing you the idle tuning with Rusefi, and we'll keep doing some more of those to kind of show you how to use the firmware, but we'll help you along the way as well. Next video, turbo time, buddies, turbo time. So because the plan for this car is to take it to vintage in end of May here, 2023 for wherever you're watching this video, and we're gonna drive it non-boosted and have some fun with that.